Hello, everyone. My name is Lori Berman. I am Vice President of Membership and Development for the Small Business Association of Michigan. Thank you for joining our webinar. It's first in a part of leadership training. We hope to continue with our speaker today, Regina Hall. Today, we're talking about connecting with others by cultivating empathy. Very interesting topic, and really looking forward to connecting with you on this, Regina. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started. We are recording today's webinar on Zoom as well on Facebook. So welcome to all of our live followers on both Zoom and Facebook. It will be recorded and live on the SBAM website, and you can also watch it later if you wish to share it with others. So let me get going and tell you a couple of things about our speaker today. Our presenter, Regina Hall, is a member of SBAM. She is a business owner. We are thrilled to have her here today. Regina, as we get going, tell us your business name. Tell us is Exhale. Exhale. I'm saying it incorrectly. Exhale. And you come to us from the Michigan Association of Female Entrepreneurs, or MAFE. That's a strategic partner of SBAM. SBAM has over 38 organizations like MAFE that come to us and bring us amazing members like you. So I look forward to you telling us about your business, Excel, and also telling us a little about MAFE. Oh, we can't hear you. I do that all the time.
Yes, thank you. So Exhale with Regina is really under Enlightened Heart Services. I started the business in 2019 to be exact. And I have been flourishing ever since, just really striving to be a part of the community and to work with women. And I'll talk more about that. Exhale with Regina is the podcast. So the reason why I started Enlightened Heart Services is really about enlightening minds and moving us to where we say we want to be, moving us from where we say we want to be to where we want to be. Where we are to where we want to be. So I'm really excited about that. My background is I'm a professional licensed counselor, and I have worked in various organizations, and I've worked in psych, just all dealing with behavioral. So when I took this turn, and again, I'll explain more about that in my story when I get started, when I took this turn, it was really because of something that transpired that made me rethink my life differently. And so this is where I am. And I'm just enjoying the ride, and I'm appreciative of it as well.
Well, excellent. We're really happy to have you here. And thank you for sharing your expertise with your peers and our members today. For those of you that are participating, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. If you're on Zoom, we'll be monitoring that the Q&A for any questions you might have. So Regina, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Okay, and thank you so much. And here, let me get my slides up. Just 1 second. Okay. Hopefully, okay, you can see my slide?
We can see them. There you go. Looks perfect.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Lori, for the introduction and allowing me to come here. I'm so excited about today and being here with Small Business Association of Michigan. And also, yes, that's true, I am as well a member of MAFI. And if you want to learn more about SBAM and also MAFI, ask me, ask Lori, and I'll be more than happy to share my experience. So again, thank you very much, Lori. And that's to you, little kids, saying thank you for this great opportunity. I just want to share a story with you. I worked for a corporation that will remain nameless. I was hired as a care manager, and I looked so forward to this opportunity. It was paying me more than I've ever been paid before, and I was excited to take this step in my career. The first day that I started, the manager who said that she wanted me, and as well as her manager said that they was looking forward to me being a part of their team, my manager ended up leaving that day. She said that she had gotten a promotion, but she didn't want to discourage me, so she didn't tell me. And she didn't want me to quit or refuse to offer because she wasn't going to be my supervisor, as I had thought. That didn't really bother me because I was excited for the fact at least I had met her manager and interviewed with him. So fine, that's great. I started and it was chaotic. Another young lady who started with me, she felt the chaos so impactfully that she decided that she just had to quit after being there a month. But not me. I was staying the task. I wanted this experience and I wanted to grow. And of course, it's okay. It's a little bumps in the road here. My experience was this. I went from manager to manager, and then there was a new position. So the people who I was supposed to be working with hadn't really started the position or kicked off their side of it. So I was in limbo. That was very difficult. They were giving me various type of tasks and I kept meeting them. I even received some incentive rewards in cash, really admiring what I was doing and my stick-to-itiveness. Finally, I landed in a position that I was happy about, or on a team, I should say, and the work that I was supposed to have been doing finally kicked off. It was great, but now here I am again being moved to another team. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what is going on? I let them know, though, that the position that they were putting me in, it was something that I had made known that this position I did not want. I had worked it before. Now it was a lateral move instead of this new experience. And I said to them, this is not a position that I am looking forward to. I wasn't heard. And eventually, the manager and I started to clash. And boy, this was becoming extremely difficult. I didn't want to get up in the morning. I felt so stuck. But I didn't want to quit. My daughter had just started college. It was her first year of college. My husband had decided to retire. He had worked 31 years for a corporation. He was ready to retire. And here I was trying to figure this all out. In my heart of hearts, though, when we were talking, I let them know that I wanted to eventually become a trainer. I love doing professional and personal development training, and that's what I wanted to do. I wasn't heard. Clashing was going on. And finally, they said to me, "You're fired." And they didn't do it in the kindest way either. I was called on the phone, and I did remote work. They called me up, wasn't really kind about it, and said, "You're fired." When I hung up the phone, I started laughing. I couldn't believe I was laughing. Finally, they had did for me what I couldn't do for myself. I let my husband know what was going on. And when he came into the door, he had his arms out, but I bust out laughing again. He didn't know what to do. He was like, "I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to hug you and say, 'Honey, I'm sorry this happened,' or yay, what's going on with you?" And I said, "Such a weight has lifted. I am so happy it's over." Well, that was not music to his ears, because he's like, "Regina, really? Couldn't you have thought about this a little differently? Um, hmm, let's talk about this. Let's spend some time thinking about this." But you know what? I'm telling you, them firing me, it allowed me now to become a certified speaker, trainer, and coach. I help women who feel stuck, undervalued, unheard, professional women, to get in a path that they believe that they want, moving from where they are to where they want to go, a fulfilling career path, and also having the ability to influence others. So them firing me became the best thing for me, because it positioned me to move into where I wanted to go. Now, I like Exhale with Regina. It's a part of a podcast that I do, and it's called Exhale with Regina, Women Owning Their Voices. I love it. The services that I provide is empathic leadership services. And I love doing that, because empathic leadership, which we're going to be talking about, empathic, connecting with others through empathy. We're going to be talking about that, but I want you to really embrace these objectives, to understand the key elements in connecting with others, identify the key components in cultivating empathy. And empathy is truly about cultivation, to explore how effective listening plays a pivotal role in empathy. So we're going to be talking about those things. So connecting with others by cultivating empathy is going to probably be somewhat new to you, or you may have heard it before. But one thing I know for sure, that every leader, every visionary can embrace empathy at some level. And it doesn't matter if you're a small company, whether you're a large company, a mid-sized company, every leader can lead their team through empathy. So here's an icebreaker for you. What do you see? And if you can put this in the chat, I would appreciate it. What do you see? Do you see on this helicopter, are the lines longer, or are the lines the same on the pink one, the green one? What do you see? Can you put that in the chat, and then Lori can let me know what kind of answers we're getting? Which helicopter lines is longer? The blue one, the green helicopter, the pink one, the black helicopter? Both are equal, or you just don't know? What do you see?
Well, we have a very quiet group. First one is the red is longer than the blue.
Okay, okay. So you see the red as being longer than the blue. Okay, all right. And that's it, Lori. That's it for an answer.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Well, I appreciate you doing that. So here we go. They the same. They are the same. And let's talk about that. We want to call that paradigm. Paradigm is a word which means a pattern or model, the generally accepted perspective. For this session, our paradigms will represent our views of the world, our explanation for what we observe in the world around us. And what I want us to get out of the paradigm is really about how we see the world, what we accept as our truth. And it comes from our families, it comes from our environment, as well as us, what we have accepted as truth. And that's why when you look at the helicopter, you can say, oh, well, the red one is probably larger, or the blue one is larger. But they were actually both equal. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute because I want to show you a video. And if I can encourage you to please give your answers, to share your answers, that would be great. Because I really want to hear from you. And let me stop sharing. I did what I say I didn't want to do, which I didn't click. Here we go. All right, let me go back and share. Can you hear it, Lori?
Yes. We hear music.
Okay.
That's a really pretty drawing you got there. That's a really pretty drawing you got there. Hey, listen. I was just complimenting your drawing. I'm not a creep that's trying to get at you or anything. Girls these days, you think every guy's after you. You all have so much attitude, it's ridiculous.
Wow. How many of us have gone through that? Where we have assumed that we knew what was going on. His paradigm, his perspective led him to believe that, like his other experiences, she was just ignoring him when he was just trying to offer her a compliment. She was just stuck on herself. We have to ask ourselves those questions when we are seeing things from our own perspective. Is what we're seeing really what we're seeing? That's a good question to ask ourselves. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna share another video with you. This is on perspective taking. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. I was hoping I can just switch because I have them. Hold on. Okay. Here we go.
Perspective taking is a valuable skill in many aspects of life and leadership. When we talk about perspective taking, we're referring to the process through which one is able to see a situation from the viewpoint of another, understanding their feelings, intentions, thoughts, or view of a particular situation. It doesn't mean we have to agree with their point of view. However, there is understanding and empathy. One of the things that is clear is that we all have our own perspective or way of seeing the world. For example, consider this image. What do you see? Please write down what you see in this image. Did some of you see a rabbit? Did some of you see a duck? Why do you think that is? This exercise demonstrates that even when presented with the same scenario, or in this case, image, we may see things differently. From one person's perspective, it may be a rabbit, and for another, a duck. Some may see something entirely different. It all depends on your perspective. Many aspects of life influence our perspective, such as our experiences, values, personality traits, information available, personal biases, and more. One's viewpoint can also change depending on your physical position or in the role you play. For example, not everyone on a football field has the same view. Your perspective can vary drastically depending on your place on the field and position, such as quarterback, O-lineman, or free safety. Sometimes, to understand others and to see from others' perspectives, we must reposition ourselves, both physically and mentally. When we acknowledge that there are many ways to see the world, we quickly see why perspective taking is valuable as we work to do things like improve race relations and advocate for social justice causes. Here are a few things to keep in mind. Perspective taking allows you to consider the experiences and viewpoints of others. By doing so, you improve your ability to understand, empathize, connect, and communicate. Finally, when you practice perspective taking, you can be a more effective advocate for others and the issues you care about the most.
So I've got my essay written.
This was great.
And
Perspective taking. How do we do that? Well, that's what we're going to talk more about. But one of the things I wanted to establish early on was we come to the table with us in mind. It's us. that we need to think about what's getting in the way. Are we getting in the way of hearing, seeing, or even experiencing others? I'm gonna go back to my slides. Hold on one second. It seemed to be, wait just 1 second. I'm seem to be stuck. Okay. Okay, here I go, Lori. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, thank you for your patience. So connecting with others by cultivating empathy, connecting. Now, some of us may feel that we have a difficult time connecting with others. And there are some of us who really may see that that's not such a easy thing to do because we're free talkers and we like being around people. But the question is, are we really connecting? Connecting is the ability to identify with people and relate to them that increases our influence with them. I am sure you have been in conversations where you didn't want the conversation to end. You learned so much about them and they learned so much about you. You had things in common and you just didn't want the conversation to end. Have you ever been there before? You decided that you wanted to take it to another level and you exchanged phone numbers. You may have stayed connected or you may not have. Whatever the case, you left feeling great. You had just influenced one another. I recall my husband and I had married and he was already living in a place before we moved to where we are now. We decided that I was going to, and my daughter was going to move in there. We did. And what I noticed that he had been there quite for a long time and he knew his neighbor's name and maybe have talked to them a little, but not really much about them. I grew up in a neighborhood where you knew your neighbors and you knew things about them. So I set out to get to know the neighbors. And I wanted my daughter to have that experience. We met the neighbors on the side of us, the other side of us, down the street from us, and across the street from us. We had built such relations, even to the point that one of the people we built a relationship with, I put him down as the person that my daughter needed to run to, Mr. Charlie. We love Mr. Charlie. And my daughter and I had developed such a great relationship with him that we did not want anybody else, if she was in trouble and he needed to get somewhere, that Mr. Charlie was going to be that person. He had influenced us. And what is influence? Well, I'm glad you asked. Influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. Influence, you are impacting the character, development, or behavior. I don't know if we really think about that. But what I want us to know today is that leadership is influence. Everything rises and falls on leadership. John Maxwell. Oftentimes we think of leadership as being a position, but not so. The position is not what we're most interested in. When we are leaders or visionaries, we want to make sure that we are more interested in people and not the production. And sometimes, even where I worked, that got confusing for some leaders. So everything rises and falls on leadership. So what is empathy? Let's take a look at some definitions. This is by the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley. Empathy has different meanings to different type of researchers. Emotional researchers generally define empathy as the ability to sense others, people's emotions, coupled with the ability to imagine what someone else might be thinking or feeling. Contemporary researchers often differentiate between two types of empathy: cognitive empathy and affective empathy. Affective empathy refers to the sensations and feelings we get in response to others. Emotions that can include mirroring what the other person is feeling, or just feeling stressed when we detect another's fear or anxiety. Cognitive empathy refers to our ability to identify and understand other people's thoughts. How many of you are feeling what other people are feeling, or thinking what other people are thinking? Or are we telling people our own autobiography? Let's think about that for a minute. So here are some forms of empathy. Psychologists have defined three distinct types of empathy: cognitive, emotional, and compassionate. Cognitive empathy. I just gave some what researchers are talking about for empathy, but here, this form of empathy is referred to as perspective taking. That's what we just saw on the video, because it is the ability to see someone else's perspective by putting yourself into someone else's place. Therefore, cognitive empathy is done through thought, not feeling. So let's think about that for a minute. When somebody is sharing with you what's going on in their lives, so say an employee comes up to you to tell you what's going on in their lives, and then you begin to say to them, I hear what you're saying. Tell me a little bit more about that. Or do you say, I can relate to that. I had this experience, and this is what I did to handle that. Just what happened, you wasn't walking, or we're not walking in the other person's shoes. We are walking in our own shoes. We are telling them about a situation we went through instead of sticking with them. Because really, empathy is our ability to walk in somebody else's shoes. That's thought empathy as well as emotional empathy. So emotional empathy. This is the form that most people are familiar with, which is the ability to quite literally feel what the other person's emotions are. Emotional empathy allows us to understand and relate to others' emotion. This type of empathy is common among professionals such as nurses or caregivers. And here is inspirational empathy. Inspirational empathy is really when you're inspired by what someone is doing, right? You can feel it, and you may even say, wow, I wouldn't mind doing something like that. Well, here are some quotes that I like with inspirational empathy. This is by George Washington Carver. How far you go in life depends on you being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving, and tolerant of the weak and the strong. Because someday in your life, you would have been all of these. Here's one by Barack Obama. Learning to stand in someone else's shoes, to see through their eyes, that's how peace begins. And it's up to you to make that happen. It is the quality of character that can change the world. And this one is by Albert Einstein. Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. The importance of empathy, the importance of us connecting, is recognizing that we have to move ourselves out of the way. In order to hear what someone else is saying, in order to feel what someone else is feeling, we have to make it less about us and more about them. So the key aspects of empathy that allow us to empathize is to feel what others are feeling. But we need skills to do that. So imagine talking to a friend about something you experienced, and usually that friend will begin to understand and possibly even empathize with you. But then imagine that they are not feeling what you're saying. They are not hearing what you're saying. Eventually, you're going to shut down because that person isn't hearing. And you may even consider leaving that person alone. Empathy allows us to connect with others. Without it, we couldn't respond appropriately to situations. Empathy is also strongly connected to social behavior. Connecting is the ability, which we talked about earlier, to identify with people and relate to them, that it increases our influence with them. Remember, it increases our influence with them in their development, in their character, and in their behavior. So great stories are about being human, cultivating our own empathy. To develop more profound empathy skills, it takes a moment to understand what empathy is not. As we know, empathy is the experience of understanding another person's thoughts and feelings. But this can be a little confusing because sometimes we confuse it with sympathy and compassion. Sympathy is the feeling of care. I'm concerned, accompanied by a wish to see them do better off. That's sympathy. Sympathy, unlike empathy, it does not involve the shared perspective. However, facial expressions of sympathy can convey caring and concern, and they do not express shared distress. Compassion. Compassion is more involved than empathy. It is associated with an active desire to alleviate suffering. We don't want the person to suffer, so we go into action. While these three traits relate, each is distinct. Sympathy, I care about your pain. Empathy, I feel your pain. Compassion, I want to take your pain away. So understanding that empathy is different from sympathy, it is different from compassion, it really will help us to connect better. So how do we actively listen? How do we develop the skill? Active listening is a communication technique requiring full concentration, understanding, and response from the listener. Active listening helps us to cognitively connect. Thereby, it can be utilized as a technique to boost empathy. So here are 6 strategies for cultivating empathy through active listening. Practice non-judgmental, being non-judgmental. Ask the right question, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. Use body language. Validate emotions. Find comfort in silence. And paraphrase. Keep an open mind. Keep a judgment-free zone. Creating an environment that is free of judgment is the first step to actively understanding a person's situation. Judgment creates a barrier and prevent us from connecting. You know, that's something that I am really striving and gaining a better understanding with my daughter. My daughter graduated from college this past June, and she decided that she wanted to move to Atlanta. And she moved there, got her a place, and really thriving there. She's working 2 jobs. I'm really excited for her, but at the same time, I'm a concerned parent. I'm always going to be mama, right? Well, when I'm talking to her and she say something, I see me moving into some zones that I don't need to move into. And she'll say, can you just listen? Mom, can you just listen? And I had to begin to deal with myself. Yeah, I need to listen. I need to hear her. I need to move to coaching when she wants to be coached. But I just need to listen. That was hard. She's in a place. And I'm like, oh, wait, don't do that. I think you need to rethink that. Oh, wait, Amanda, I'm not sure about that. Well, this was causing barriers in our relationship. I had to exhale and just trust that what I have put in her, and pray that she is going to be all right. I'm still getting through that, but the communication is definitely increasing. So also awareness in creating a judgment-free zone. We need to become aware and observe and identify our thoughts. Once we are aware of those thoughts, we can identify when our thoughts are judgmental and stop those thoughts. Everything starts with thoughts. We can change lives when we change our thoughts. Understanding. When we catch ourselves being judgmental, we can redirect our thoughts to try to be more understanding, to hear what the person is hearing, to imagine what someone else has gone through. Get in their shoes. What are they going through? It's not a time for us to judge what they're going through. It is a time for us to put on their shoes. And acceptance. Sometimes this can be difficult, particularly if we feel we're right. Once we have an understanding of what someone else has been through, we can begin to accept people without trying to change them or challenge them. After all, the only person we have control over is us. And that is a hard enough job to do. So framing our questions appropriately. Here's an excellent step to think about our questions and to think about how we can present with questions. I have come to learn, and I was not an advocate of this. I felt like, oh, if I start asking questions, then I may turn them off. Well, we do have to be careful. But when people see that you're asking questions about what they're going through and not you telling your autobiography, people become more open and willing to share. So asking someone why can come off judgmental or make others feel defensive. Instead, use open-ended questions. Open-ended questions require a more thoughtful response. It will get beyond the yes and no. Rather than asking why, rephrase the thought to say something under the what, the how, the when, the where. For example, instead of asking a question of why, think about like, have you thought about seeing a doctor instead of, why haven't you seen a doctor? See the difference in that? If you say, why haven't you seen a doctor? It may put the person on the defensiveness, on the defense, and cause a disconnect. embracing open-ended questions, leading with the how, the when, the where, helps us to really understand an individual better. Because remember, it's more about them and less about us. So let's look at how we can avoid some common pitfalls. Avoid correcting someone's thoughts. It's not, don't say, that's not worth getting angry over. If they say something, say, tell me more. Avoid providing unsolicited advice. Most of the time, people are just looking to be heard. Listen carefully to what is being said before offering any advice. I have learned to say, do you mind if I comment on that, or would you prefer that I just continue to listen? And even with my daughter, I do that now, and she said, go ahead, I'm willing to hear. That has helped us a lot. Avoid making comparisons when trying to validate someone's feelings. You can't always offer validation in the form of personal experience, because you may not have experienced what the person is going through. So don't validate a person through what you have experienced. This is their experience, and they really need you to hear them. And if you can offer something, get their permission. Avoid blaming someone for the feelings they are experiencing. That can be very difficult to do when we begin to blame people for what they're feeling. And it goes like this: why are you feeling that way? That's an immediate shutdown. I know I don't like when people do that to me. Explore the feeling. Tell me more. What's going on with you? I didn't know you felt that way. Avoid trying to fix it. And this is definitely big, as they say. Research have shown that men are more fixers. Avoid trying to fix the problem. It's their problem. They will come to the conclusion and the solution of what they need to do. Many people know what they need to do. Here we think about the body language, the intricacies of body language. You know, as a counselor, particularly now that we're remote, I still do some counseling. I love it. And picking up on people's body language on the screen is really important. And it requires me paying extra attention. And I didn't realize how much I was missing people's body languages. You just think that you automatically know that you're the expert. Not so much. In becoming an expert, I have really learned it's about me practicing. It's about me gaining knowledge and understanding. It's about me getting involved with others. That's what it's about, me being mindful. And that requires being less distracted, not on my phone, not trying to eat something, not trying to do something else, but really listening, looking in that camera and letting them know, I hear you. So reading body language is an essential aspect of empathy. Gestures such as eye contact are useful for letting others know that you are listening and engaged in what they are saying. Body language makes up nearly 50% of communication. It is not verbal. Because body language is usually a subconscious reaction, it tells us more about what a person is saying than the words they are speaking. So it's real important that we engage the body language and ask questions. They'll tell you if you're right. Well, I'm sensing that you're feeling this way. And they can say, Well, not really, but I am feeling X, Y, and Z. So look at what they're doing by their body language. Empathy is seeing the big picture. I love this because it really is. As visionaries, as leaders, we need to see the big picture of what's going on. And if we don't know the people around us, our customers, and we haven't identified some of the things that they're going through or something that could be going on, if we're not paying attention, if we're not ahead of the game, we can miss the mark. So empathy is seeing the big picture. Empathy is about standing in someone else's shoes, feeling with his or her heart, seeing with his or her eyes. Not only is empathy hard to outsource and automate, but it makes the world a better place. That's by Daniel H. Pink. Here's some resources. If you would like to know more, I would love to offer you some resources that I use in order for me to really begin to understand what empathy is and what it means to really connect with others through cultivating empathy. I also want to invite you to take a free 45-minute coaching opportunity with me. You can go to my website. You can go to reginachall.com and just click at the top of the toolbar and connect with me. That's reginachall.com. I want to thank you for being here today. I hope this has been meaningful. Thank you, Lori, and thank you all for this opportunity of you being here for connecting with others by cultivating empathy.
Thank you, Regina. It was great. We learned some great information. I appreciate what you shared with us today, and we look forward to having you back again.
Thank you.
I don't see any questions for our participants. Last chance to offer questions here. Anything you like to ask our expert? I feel, Regina, that I'm one of those listeners that likes to fix it. So it sounds like I need to zip it when I'm trying to be a more empathetic, better listener. Actually, there's tips I could take in all of the different things that you brought up to us today. But I don't see any questions from our participants. So we will bring it to a close. Thank you again. We appreciate your time today.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Take care.